This is Cockpits and Cocktails. We use this podcast to share stories and talk about all things aviation and aerospace. Thank you for joining us for this episode. Cheers to you and enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Cockpits and Cocktails. I'm excited to have you here today because I have a unique guest this time on the podcast. And, we usually stick with aviation topics, and we've only had two men on this podcast. My dad was one of them, who was a pilot, and then another pilot at Bananas on Instagram. But this person has been a friend of mine for almost as long as Fly Girl has started, which was about 7 years ago. He is celebrating his 6-year anniversary with his company, Hudson Bronze Digital. He is the founder and CEO of Hudson Bronze Digital. And I came to know him through looking for someone for a website. He came highly recommended with a local company here in Cincinnati. And we hit it off pretty well in the beginning. I wanted to have him on the podcast because, he's a great friend of mine, and I think that he's got a lot of insight into some things that a lot of people deal with. We discussed, what we could talk about and how to commingle our two interests. And, of course, I'm into flying, and he is a business owner. And he's very passionate about his clients and being a business owner. He hasn't always owned a business. This is his 6-year anniversary of Hudson Bronze Digital this month. And they may seem very unrelated, but the more I thought about what we could talk about, I thought a lot of the things really have a lot of similarities. Flying, is something that is kind of scary when people think about going out to get their pilot's license. It's very challenging. It's hard to find the time. It's hard to, if you're someone that hasn't been in school in a while, to go back. And it's an expensive endeavor, and it's kind of something you go out on a limb to do. Well, David started his own business. He's recently moved, and there's a lot of things that are very much in common. I'm not just a pilot. I've also got two businesses. I'm a mom, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of us are juggling lots of different things and lots of different interests. And starting a business is kind of can be very intimidating for a lot of people. And there are a lot of similarities with some of the things that we talked about before this podcast in flying and running a business and moving and all those different kinds of new phases and chapters in life. And I know a lot of you are dealing with the same things. And I wanted for he and I to have a discussion about some of those things. So I'm going to welcome David, and he's going to introduce himself and maybe say a few words. And then we're going to come into this conversation with a top 5 list. This is advice when you're thinking about branching out, trying something new, facing a scary challenge, and what can possibly set you up for success. So welcome, David, to this podcast.
Natalie, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so very much for having me. And you did a wonderful introduction. I mean, my goodness. How am I supposed to follow that? You talked me up so much. I hope I can deliver for your audience.
I'm sure you can.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Bronze. I'm the founder and CEO of Hudson Bronze Digital. We are a digital marketing agency. We specialize in logo creation, brand strategy, website design, development, hosting, as well as getting you found online with reviews, as well as SEO. So we only focus on 5 things, but we do those 5 things really well. I started the business. This is my 6-year anniversary this month on September 13th. And I've been in digital marketing professionally since 2011. So 2011 to 23, almost 24. That's definitely a long time in this digital marketing space. And I'm just here to hopefully we entertain your audience, and hopefully they learn something from us.
Yeah. So you haven't always been a business owner, right?
Correct. I just been a salesperson that truly loves what he does. I've always treated the businesses like they were my own. So maybe that gave me a leg up that whenever I was out selling a particular product, I definitely treated those clients like I'd like to be treated. So, yeah, it wasn't until 2017. So I've been doing sales professionally for over 20 something years. And when 2017 hit, we'll talk about that in a
Yeah.
little bit when we start talking about the five different things we're going to talk about. But
Yeah.
I've not been a business owner my whole life. I've been mainly salesman my whole life, helping other people with their footprint, with their legacy, and yeah, it was time to focus on ours.
Yeah. Well, I know, I am 50 years old and I've seen a lot of stuff. I've known a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that have worked for someone and, really want something else. And they think about opening their own business and starting their own business. And it's a very scary leap. It's very, a scary endeavor for many people. I'm sure you faced the same thing when you decided to start your own business, right?
It was for sure nerve-wracking. However, prior to starting my own business, I did work for other digital marketing agencies, very large ones, small startups, and to see how they ran the business or how they didn't run it properly, that definitely gave me more confidence that I know I'm going to do something great, because I'm going to do either exactly how they're running their business, all the good things that they've been doing, and I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I've seen, how they're losing business. So yeah, I think that gave me ultimately uh, 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 um, a lot of confidence to get things cooking.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to just, if I've got listeners on here that are all about aviation and flying and learning to fly and all that. So we're not just going to talk about running a business and digital marketing, because a lot of people can't
Yes,
really relate to that. This is
for
really
sure.
about some of the challenges and success that you can have, whether you're running a business or learning to fly, and maybe you know how to fly, but you're moving, you want to move up and you want to fly something else. And we all have to deal with some of the same things, even if it's not learning to fly. It could be something else that you're facing. So I would not have invited David on here if I thought that it wasn't going to be beneficial to the listeners, and that there's something that I think everyone can get out of this conversation. And I love meeting people and talking to people about what they do and learning something from them. Hopefully, it's like every person I meet, I think I want to learn something from this, whether it's what to do or what not to do, or just anything. I'm always open to hearing what other people say. And I think that that is a great thing for anyone, and just makes you a more, educated and well-rounded individual to hear all about different people. So what I want to talk about is, some of the top 5 things that you think set you up for success in business. And I believe I can relate those things. I'm going to counteract those things or throw in some things that I think are related to aviation. So this is a first for us to do this, but I
Awesome.
know that I have a lot of good things to say that can relate to some of the things that you're going to talk about. So you are, I know your business has grown because I've known you since pretty much the beginning. I mean, we both kind of
Yes,
started at the same time, which is
we did. Yeah.
funny.
Yep.
And we've supported one another. You have been a great friend, and I've gotten to know you more and more and more over the years, and have really helped with my website. If you haven't seen it, it's been recently updated. So it's flygirlllc.com. Check it out. It looks super sharp. And I have David and his team to thank for that. Thank
Awesome.
you,
Thank
David.
you.
So, top 5 things that you think have set you up for success. Why don't you start?
Well, number one, we gotta know what we're getting into. So before I started Hudson Bronze Digital, I definitely did a lot of research, um, asking other business owners, how they approached starting their new business, um, getting advice from mentors, talking to bookkeepers, tax accountants, just you name it, just making sure that I'm talking to folks that have ran their own businesses before, getting advice from them, getting tips from them on what the best way to start the business. So I think, the old saying, network, 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 get out there, shake hands, meet people. I think that was huge. And I think really getting people's feedback on, do you think I'm making a great decision going out on my own? So I'm almost then getting like a cheering section going because they're excited for this upcoming thing that I, will be launching. So I think that's the first step is research and getting all of the great advice and tips that you can.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw in some things about aviation that I think are very similar. And, there's, I don't know what the saying is, but there's something about gather as much information as you possibly can before, you just branch out, gather information, plan. For anyone interested in flying or advancing in their career, that would be, research schools, local flight schools. There can be major differences in their curriculum and the number of airplanes they have, the number of instructors they have. Talk to people that are involved in aviation. What is their career? Do they fly for the airlines? What do they like about it? What do they not like about it? Are they flying corporate? Is flying a hobby for them? Talking to people, seeking their opinions from other pilots. What has your experience been in aviation from flight school all the way to their career? What did they like? What did they not like? How can you prepare yourself? Networking is huge in aviation as well because it's such a small community. Everyone knows everyone, and don't ever burn any bridges, I say, because you never know when you're going to need that person to help you, when that person's going to need you. And it's especially true for anyone in aviation, but for women as well, because it's even a smaller pool of women and we don't have as many resources to reach out to and gather information from. A man's experience is going to be different from a woman's experience in aviation. So yes, those, I would agree with that totally. Research, plan. Okay, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is know your why. Not only as far as know your why. So the reason why we started Hudson Bronze Digital, and in the introduction, you talked about me moving, but you didn't tell them I moved from Ohio to Florida. That it's not just moving around the block. So that's also something very scary we did recently as of July 1. So let me first talk about the know your why. 7 years ago, we were pregnant with twins, Emerson and Hudson, and it was a very difficult pregnancy. And at the very end of the pregnancy, around 30 weeks, we unfortunately lost Hudson, and then we had to go in there and save Emerson's life and do an emergency C-section and get her to the NICU. And it was the worst day and most exciting day to have Emerson, but also a terrible day to lose Hudson. So when all this was going on, I ended up just being there emotionally, physically, with to be there for to make sure our daughter is getting healthy out of the NICU. She was there for a month and a half, almost 2 months, and I was obviously not able to work during that time. I was just a mess. So I would say finally when we got Emerson home and she was safe and we got to say our goodbyes, that first day to the Hudson, I don't know if you know this, but if you ever lose a child, they encourage you to say your goodbyes. So they brought Hudson to our hospital room and we got to spend a good 8 hours with him, just hugging on him, loving on him. And it was really great as far as to have a little bit of a time with my deceased son. So here we are months later. I'm physically or mentally, getting better, and I'm ready to go back to work. And the wife's like, "Hey, I don't want you to just go back and just be this awesome sales guy for some other firm and help their legacy and their footprint." Losing Hudson definitely made me think about his legacy and our footprint. So You know digital marketing like the back of your hand. I'd like for us to start our own digital marketing agency. I want to name it after our son, Hudson Bronce. So it'll be Hudson Bronce Digital. It'll be his legacy, and it'll be our footprint. So that is a why that it motivates me every single day to get out there, to make that extra phone call, to make that extra networking event, because I never want to let Hudson Bronce's name down. I never want to let that down. Again, that's an awesome why. And then also, we just moved from Ohio to Florida, and my daughter loves the beach. We wanted to be more active, more outdoors, and just unfortunately in Cincinnati, Ohio, you only have summer months of maybe 2.5, 3 months, and then it's back to fall, winter weather. So we made the decision once we had this opportunity to work remotely. We finally pulled that plug. So know your why. We moved down here to Florida for a healthier lifestyle, and know our why. We started Hudson Bronze Digital for our children. So that's our why. My why is my children are my focus.
Nice. Well, I know. Did you live in Ohio your entire life?
Yes, mainly. I lived in Kentucky for about 9, 10 years.
Okay. All right. Well, Ohio and Kentucky are very close together, in case people don't know their geography. And I have friends that have moved. I've moved several times. Now, my dad was in the military, and then after that, I moved as an adult several times. And that's something that people don't really realize how big of a leap that is and how life-changing that can be. It's full of challenges, moving to a whole new place you're not familiar with, you don't know anyone.
I'm 48 years old, and my daughter is 6. She's a first grader. So we moved down here early enough that we could get her right into first grade, and she wouldn't have to then switch schools. So we definitely came earlier also because of Emerson, our daughter.
Yeah, yeah. So what I want to talk about with Know Your Why in aviation, that I think is a tip that can lead you to success, is to know, what is your end goal? Do you want this aviation to be a career? Do you want it to be a hobby that you can share with your friends and family? Are you wanting to do it because you want to travel the world internationally? Are you hoping to make really good money with the airlines? I know, there's FedEx and UPS, and once you get up to captain on a lot of these big airliners, you make really good money. You have a lot of control over your schedule. Are you into it because you like the idea of adventure and you want to, continuously have challenges? A career in aviation is full of challenges constantly. And I remember my dad telling me, if you're interested in making a career out of aviation, then you better be prepared to do a study in like your entire career, because you're always preparing for a check ride. You're always preparing and trying to move from the right seat to the left seat and then to a bigger airplane. And it's constantly, if that's your goal, that's something that you need to accept. What are, you got to know what your values are, what really makes you happy, unhappy, staying in hotels all the time. Do you love that? Do you love the idea of it? Do you really like staying in hotels? I know I don't. I don't like, I never sleep well in hotels, and I don't like being away from home in a strange place, kind of by myself. And I miss my family when I'm away. I miss out on what's going on. And that kind of makes me think less about having it as a career and more about having it as a hobby, or I can go places with my friends and family. And it will really help you decide what direction. Sometimes people think you get into aviation because it must be because you want to apply for the airlines. Well, there's a lot of different things you can do, and a lot of different things in aviation. Maybe you don't really like to travel that much, but you still want to be involved in the airlines. There's lots of different jobs you can have in the airlines. If you know your why, that's going to help you figure out what's going to make you happiest with this, aviation. If you've got to have it in your life and you love it, how can you set yourself up to be the happiest person you can be doing that? Okay. Number three. What is your number three?
Number three, focus on the basics. So you got to always remember, okay, I got into this because I've done this before. I have built many relationships with many friends. There's a trust factor there. Doing what I did before, understanding what customers' needs are, how I'm going to help them, how I'm going to achieve their goals. How are we going to succeed? Well, again, I've always, wherever I've been, I was a salesperson that people trusted because I care. I care very much about helping you succeed, getting you there. And I think that's a huge piece. So focusing on the basics, trusting in yourself, I think that's a big deal.
Oh, totally. I think, especially in aviation with social media, I found myself in this problem where I feel like I have to do what everybody else is doing. If I feel like, oh, well, they want to go to the airlines, and I should be doing that, and I should be trying to get better at flying and bigger airplanes. But if I really know myself, and this back to the basics, be yourself, don't just follow someone else's path or dream. Figure out what it is that you really like to do, what makes you feel happy, and that may not be the same as everyone else. And don't be afraid to be different, because I'm sure when you start a business and when you start going after your pilot's license, you're going to have a lot of naysayers, and you're going to have people being like, why are you doing that? You've got to know that this is right for you. And if you know yourself, and like this back to the basics, what you're all about, then you can learn to like put blinders on to all the negative things that people may say, or and just focus on, no one else has to know exactly how I feel, and no one else has to agree with me 100% that this is the right path for me. But I know in my heart that this is what makes me happy. I think that's really, really good. Good point.
Well said. Well said.
Okay, what's number four?
Know when to walk away. Didn't Kenny Rogers say something like that? You gotta know when to walk away. So I've helped hundreds, if not thousands, of business owners. And one thing that I saw from those folks are if they did make a bad decision, they're just not constantly putting more and more effort and money into something that just is never going to take off. Knowing when to pivot. So if I can give you an example, I started social media early on with my business. I did the logo creation, brand strategy, basically everything I'm doing today. And I also offered social media. But social media is a whole other animal in itself, that there was no way I was going to grow my business to where I am today if I still was having social media in my services, of what I offered. So month number 6 of my business, I pivoted away from social media, and it was the best decision I could have ever made. So I think know when to walk away, and also, knowing when to pivot. I think that's a big deal.
That is a big deal. I love that, because I've faced a very similar. I mean, when you were sending me your message about what you wanted to say, I was like, oh my gosh, this really hits home, because I have felt inclined to continue climbing the ladder in aviation, because I feel like people are watching Fly Girl, and the Fly Girl always has to be doing the next thing. And I really wasn't happy doing the next thing. It was like, I just kind of want to fly for fun. I'm doing all this. Like, I think I need to be doing this because that's what people expect. But I wasn't like, this wasn't really bringing me a lot of joy. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to pivot. I'm just going to be myself. And this is who I am. No one, is going to direct my life. There's a friend of mine that always says you can design the life you want. I'm going to design the life I want. It doesn't really matter what other people are doing. They're living their own lives and designing their own lives. And yeah, at one point, Fly Girl may be going this way, but it's okay to shift. Some of the things you and I have talked about that you've helped me with is coaching, coming into something totally different with Fly Girl and helping others figure out what they want to do in aviation, coaching them to figure out how to take the next steps, how to get scholarships, where to go to flight school, how to know what thing in aviation will really be the best fit for them. So yeah, no one to say, this is not for me. I'm going to pivot and turn in a new direction. And I think a lot of people continue doing the same thing because they don't know what other people are going to think if they don't. Like their family and friends may be confused by this total change in direction. So it's kind of a scary thing. Okay, we're down to number 5. What's your number 5?
Have fun and enjoy the ride. Your audience is just getting to know me right now. Well, please know I like to have fun. I am enthusiastic. When someone meets me, it is a, hello, how you doing? Life is great. Let's be friends. And people want to do business with enthusiasm. People want to go do business with folks that are happy, that really love what they do. People can see that. So if you're not having fun at what you're doing, I mean, good Lord, how are you ever gonna succeed if you're not even happy with what how your approach is to life or to your job?
Very true. Yeah, I like to say, enjoy the flight.
There you go. Yes.
Enjoy the ride or enjoy the flight. Yeah, if you're not, you may go in one direction. If you're not loving it and it's not making you happy the majority of the time, then it's like one of those times where it's time to walk away and go in a different direction. Do the things that you really are good at. And because if you are good at it, it's probably something that you really enjoy doing, right? It just comes naturally. Some people can't network perhaps like you do. You're very personable and extroverted and, bubbly. A lot of people aren't like that, so maybe sales and that kind of thing is not something they could do very well. Well, that's okay. We need all kinds of people in the world, right? I mean, you figure out what your talents are and where you're gifted. And with aviation, if you are, sometimes maybe you just need to stay in the right seat as second in command. Maybe you don't want the responsibility of being pilot in command. That's too stressful for you. It's not going to make you happy. Yes, you'll make more money, but money does not mean everything. And if you put all your focus on money, then that doesn't necessarily mean happiness. And I know like kids, I've got kids that are college aged and I want them to do something they love and that they enjoy and that they're naturally going to be good at that kind of thing versus just looking for where you're going to find the most money. I think money will come if it's something that you're really good at and care about. So yeah, I think that is pertinent in aviation as well. Enjoy it. I mean, you got one life and you got to do things that you love to do. And that makes people happy and they want to be around you when you're, loving life and enjoying things. Yeah. Well, I love all of those. Is there anything else you want to add?
For the have fun and enjoy the ride, I'll come home every single day and I'll have a smile and I'm not worn out. I'm excited to go play with Emerson, my daughter, and my wife is like, did you even work today? Because that's how much fun I'm having with my clients. Yeah. So I'm truly blessed and very excited for the future. And again, love being a guest on your show. Thank you, Natalie.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. So you and I have not flown together.
I want to.
Are you scared to fly in a little plane?
No, I would love to be a passenger. I'd love to be a passenger. Yes, please.
Well, I love Florida, so I'm going to have to come down there and steal you for an hour or two sometime when I'm in the area.
I'm in. Let's go. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking about this. I think we had some great stuff that a lot of people can use in a variety of ways, either in aviation or wherever their future is headed in life. I appreciate you, David.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Natalie.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. Please make sure you subscribe. And we have this is year 4 for us. So make sure you check out all the previous episodes on cockpits and cocktails. And thank you very much. Cheers.